Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you clicked on this video, then you read the title and you know what it is. 1 year post-grad. So let's just get right to it. So let's jump in so far to how post-grad has been. I want to go through stages. So definitely the first stage of just what it was like leading up to graduation, moving to New York, how it was once I got to New York, and where I'm at now, which is basically 1 year. June 16th will make it 1 year since I walked across that stage and received my bachelor's degree in journalism. This whole year has been really a complete journey. Like, I've learned so much about myself, just work-wise, personality-wise, how I handle tough situations, stressful situations, and really just how brave I am. And I want to tell you guys about that journey today. First thing, leading up to graduation, I remember around April, I realized I was going to New York for a New York journalism program that we have at my school. It's for a bunch of journalism majors to go to New York because we all live in Oregon, because I went to the University of Oregon. And we basically get to see a lot of our alumni and how they're living in New York City, killing it. We meet people from Bloomberg, BuzzFeed, New York Times, Washington Post. So that's basically what that trip was about. And I knew in April that I was going to go. But come April, I also didn't know what I was doing after school. I didn't have any internships falling through. I didn't have a career that I wanted. Around the time that I was in school my senior year, I was really preparing to be an MMJ, which is a multimedia journalist. Basically the people that you see on TV with the news reporter covering those type of stories. And what a typical journalist does is right after college, they do 2 years in a small city or a mid-level micro, depending on how good they are. So I was getting offers. I remember, like, I could have went to Montana, I could have went to Idaho, and then on top of that I had a solid contract. Like, they sent me a contract, one that was in Michigan. And I really had to ask my mentors, one, do I feel like I like this enough to where I want to spend 2 years in a small city that I don't know? And then on top of that, do I still want to be a multimedia journalist? So I was asking myself these questions, and mind you, graduation is in June and we're in April. You know, still asking myself them questions, still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. Like, nothing's falling through, but I'm getting these job offers. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to do that. That's not what even though I've like spent school studying to be this, you know, I was in Duck TV, I was in Oregon News, like I was carrying the camera around on my back, very heavy, by the way. If you were a SOJC student in the Super J program, you know. And it was a lot. So I kind of was just like, you know, that's not what I want to do. Fast forward to May, I said out loud to myself, and then it becomes real when you say it to somebody else. What if I just, you know, I'm going to New York. What if I just go and stay and look for a job? Sounds crazy. So essentially what I would tell that to people, and they would say to me, so you're going to move to New York without a job or anything planned? And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, it's doable, right? I remember at this time I was like looking up articles to see if I could do that. Like, can I move to New York without a job and get by? Like, what's the rent like? How are part-time gigs looking? And then somebody was like, oh, also make sure you look into temp agencies. Like, what's that about? So what happened is I had finals, and then I went back home, and I had about a little less than 2 weeks. And I found a sublease, and it was in Brooklyn. And I said, okay, I'm gonna give myself June, July, and August to see what I can do in New York. As soon as I sent the guy basically a down payment for that apartment, that's when I knew this is real. I'm going to New York without a job, and I'm going to figure it out. Like, I have faith in myself. I believe in myself. I know I can do this. I can do something, and I'm going to make it work. So June 16 approaches, and that is graduation day. Walk across the stage, and that's also when the trip for New York with my class was supposed to start that next day. June 16th comes. I walk across the stage, get my degree, go back home. I have my suitcase packed, 2 suitcases packed, I believe, or maybe it was a suitcase and a duffel bag. I don't know. I took like as much as I could that I thought could last me 2 months or so, and then was on a plane that night, was in New York City come Monday, June 17th. I was trying to stay focused because it's just like, okay, I'm here for this class. But as soon as that 1 week went by of me being in New York and having that safety of knowing I was with my class, that's when it became real that, like, I'm really here in New York. I don't have a job. I have savings, but I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. So at that point, I had a bunch of temp agency interviews lined up, and I was just applying like crazy. I was talking to alumni. I was trying to figure out, you know, where should I be applying? What should I do? And so basically any position that had the word assistant in it, or any position that looked like it was entry level, whether it been at MTV, Fox News, ABC News, NBC, I was applying to every single thing. And then on top of that, this is when I learned about Facebook groups too. So that's how I really figured out that it's not just the job postings, there's a lot of networking. I knew networking was happening before, but like in the sense that like seeing all these job postings from like people's Facebook profiles, I was not used to that. So that leads me into my next topic. I've already moved to New York City and I don't have a job, but I have a sublease going for 2 months. It's time to get into the freelance portion. Freelancing was something I really had to learn about, and a lot of the freelancing I did was working as a PA. I know a lot of people freelance as writers or PAs, of course, they freelance on the production set. I was doing a lot of PA stuff because it's like, okay, I have experience working with TV, and that's what I got my degree in, which was broadcast journalism. So I said, I can apply this and become a PA. I remember learning about these different things that you could use to find PA gigs to basically get a bunch of freelancing roles. And freelancing is tough because this is what they don't tell you about freelancing that I had to learn the hard way. Things aren't always consistent. You can go with freelancing, you can work 2 whole weeks and you're working, I don't know, 14-hour days every day. And then you go the other 2 weeks of the month not working at all. You know, it's like that, which for some people, that makes sense. For me, I like a little bit more stability in my life. So when it comes to freelancing, I hated it. I wanted to find a full-time job so bad, so bad. But that's what you really needed to use freelancing for, which is basically to make those connections, meet those people, show that you have really good work ethic that way that, one, you could always get called again for another freelancing gig. And 2, if they hear that you're like really trying to get a full-time gig or you're trying to, you know, you tell them what your end goals are, you know, they might talk about you or they might spread your name around or something or reference you to somebody else or give you somebody else's card or something like that. Like that happened to me a lot of times, whether it be they called me to work again for them or they gave me their contact information or shared my contact information. So networking is really important, and how you act on set is, if there's one thing I learned from freelancing that I think will probably go even in full-time work, how you act on set and how you act just in the work environment, that information travels and people remember you, people remember your name, they remember how you act, and they remember whether you were a good employee or not. Let me put you guys back into the timeline. So I'm freelancing, we're in July, August, like what I'm doing is freelancing, but I also managed to get a part-time gig at the New York Post through networking. I met an intern who was at Dow Jones, and then through her, she knew somebody who was at the New York Post who did the same thing as me, you know, came to New York, didn't have a job. So we connected. She's like, girl, give me your resume. And I was like, bet. Gave her my resume. 2 days later, got a phone call. There we go. So I have a part-time gig that's like keeping some consistency of money coming in, but at the same time, it's part-time and we're in New York. So you gotta remember that. And then on top of that, I'm freelancing as much as I can, getting whatever gig I can get. And there were some times, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 instances that I worked for free just for, you know, the experience. Let me just say, what I learned was either work for free for the experience, but do not ever work for a super low price. That's not the rate that you should be getting. There's a standard rate for PAs, I think for almost every position in the industry, and those should be followed. Do not ever let anybody try to lowball you, because they will. So we're at this weird point where I'm coming across my deadline where I set for August. So I'm still freelancing and I have a part-time gig. So I'm like, okay, I'm still applying, I'm still interviewing, I'm still trying to figure out what am I doing. We're reaching the end of August, so I'm like, okay, so I have to move out of this place and figure out where I'm gonna go next. And it just so happens my friend had just moved to New York because she had just gotten a job here. So I was like, okay, we can live together. So we ended up finding a place in Brooklyn, another place in Brooklyn. So now it's officially September. So it's officially 3 months since graduation and I still do not have a full-time job. I am still freelancing and I am still working part-time and I still do not know what I am doing. Like I'm talking to my mom and I'm just like, I really don't know. Like, oh, I have another interview here. Oh, I talked to this person and they said they were putting a good word. Or I emailed this person and they emailed me back. You know, that's promising. But at the same time, like as I'm saying it out loud and I'm talking to my mom, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've signed a lease at this point because I still have that much faith in myself that I can figure it out. I can get something. You know, I did not come here to fail. That's what I kept telling myself. And my family, my sister and my mom, for one, they did not want to let me fail. There was other people in the family that definitely thought that I wasn't going to make it, that, you know, I was going to come back to Oregon and like forget about this crazy pipe dream or whatever that I had. But at the same time, like my sister was like, nah, you gonna work it out. Like there was a point in August where I didn't have enough for the rent. And I told them, like, I don't know what to do. Like I genuinely do not know what to do. And my mom couldn't give it to me, but my sister did. Those low moments that I did not think I would ever experience after graduation was some of the key things that I think really shaped me to be who I am today. Post-grad comes with a lot of things that I don't think that they really tell you about, and there's a depression that comes. I remember it being September, I believe, and I had interviewed for some place, and I really thought I got it. Like, I thought I was killing it. I thought me and the person who I interviewed with really connected, and then, you know, emailed them as a follow-up, and they eventually, you know, they essentially told me that I didn't get it. And I remember I was sitting in the kitchen and like I was just talking to my friend, laughing it off or whatever. And then there was like a moment where I just sat there and I was like, I just started crying. This is getting tough. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I also realized I was in a good place too, because there's a lot of people who do not get callbacks at all. But I guess the fact that I was getting callbacks and interviews showed that I was doing something right. But at the same time, I was still doing something wrong because I was not getting hired. You know, I really just sat there and I looked at my friend and I just started crying. I said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I don't know why it's not sticking. You know, I feel like a failure. I've been here since June and I still don't have anything. I still don't know what to tell my mom. I still don't know what to tell people. Like, what am I doing? Because I just feel so lost right now. But at the same time, I knew for a fact that even though I cried and everything, I wasn't going to leave. I was going to figure some way out. So that was September. I remember doing a lot of interviews, and I also remember I got an internship at this TV production company around October. I was there for 3 weeks, but it essentially just did not work out. It wasn't a right fit for me, and that's another thing too that I think a lot of people do not realize coming out of college, that some work environments just aren't for everybody. Like, you're not gonna vibe with everybody that's in that office. It's just not, you don't fit in, and that's okay, because there's probably another place where you do fit in. And trying to make yourself fit in, trying to, you know, ignore your mental health and how you're really feeling when you're at this place, you know, whether you feel really completely drained, you feel down, you hate the person you're working for, you don't respect their authority at all or anything of that nature. It was a lot of things that I really had to figure out myself with that internship, and as a result of it, it just didn't work out. Now we're at the end of October. Got the internship beginning of October, we're at the end of October, and I just lost this internship, which was about some real stable, you know, money I had coming in. We gonna bounce back. I might have lost this internship. It is what it is. You know I can get that, so I can get something else. I can get something better. It's just a matter of time. So around that time, I wasn't really that pressed. I was still like, okay, whatever it is, you know, back in my grind, back on doing my part-time thing on top of freelancing, like just, you know, back at it, still applying to stuff, still reaching out, still trying to figure out what I can do to keep, you know, to keep afloat. So I found this workspace on Slack, and it was called Ladies Get Paid. I don't know how, I can't even, to this day, I still don't remember how I found it, but I found it. And people were posting about themselves and, you know, what they're doing. I just like posted and said, hey, I just graduated in June. I'm looking for a full-time gig. This is what I got my degree in. This is what I can do. And I think I had I don't know if I attached my resume or anything, but I just know that I put out the main points that needed to be said about myself. One of the managers reached out to me and basically said that they found my profile and, you know, that they were hiring. So I was like, okay, cool. Researched the company and it seemed really nice. Did an interview over the phone and did an interview in person. And then I liked the company, I liked the people, you know, I felt really comfortable talking to the people that I was interviewing with, which I think is a big proponent too also. Make sure anytime you're doing an interview, you read the room, you see what it's like in the workspace. The person you're interviewing with, make sure you're getting, you know, the right type of energy and all that stuff, because that is a crucial role for where you are going to be spending 40 hours of your life every day. So make sure it's something you love and somewhere you can see yourself being. You know, I think most of the time, a lot of people post-grad are so bent on getting their full-time job, which, hey, that was me. I was applying everywhere, okay? But once you're in that one bad workspace, you're like, okay, I do not want to be there ever again. I need to figure something out. Long story short, the full-time job that I have now, that I've had for about 6 months now, is basically a job that found me. And that was basically from putting myself out there, letting them know what my work ethic is, letting them know what I'm looking for. And somebody found me and showed somebody at their company, and that is what brought me there. It took me not exactly, but almost 6 months to find my first full-time job. You know, I was not one of those people who had a full-time job right out of college. It only took them 3 months. It only took them a few weeks. No, it took your girl 6 months. And I love telling that story. Like, hey, right after graduation, I moved to New York and I was freelancing and I was trying to make it work. And then I got a full-time job and now I'm flourishing. But yeah, right after getting my first full-time job, you know, that's when, you know, it came into learning how to budget, learning what insurance is, life insurance, dental, medical, all that important stuff, learning how to balance that work life between, you know, oh, am I working too much? Am I not working enough? Am I going out too much? Before this pandemic, I was trying to figure out how to go out more because I feel like I was working so much. And it's still something I'm trying to balance now, even while in quarantine, how to, you know, like on my weekdays, that's just for work. And then on my weekends, I really try to make it my mission to do something for myself, even if it is being in the house all day or going for a walk or something, you know, something that's like, it's good for my mental health because it can really take a toll on you, just like work, and being in the house all the time. So make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves out there, especially during this time. Now I like to just get into what I wish I knew and my advice for post-grads right now who are about to graduate, or maybe somebody who's just graduated or something not too long ago, a year ago, whatever it is, and they're just still trying to figure it out. Patience. Because what's meant for you will be for you. That's what I always kept saying myself, even with these interviews. Like, if I don't get it, you know, it wasn't for me. You know, like if it was for me, I would have gotten it. Be yourself. Do not try to be somebody else. Like, if you're a quiet person, do not try to be loud, because I feel like that shows when somebody is trying to be extra talkative and that's not them. Hype yourself up. Like, if your resume says that, you know, maybe you don't have any internships, but you did a lot of stuff during school, hype all that stuff up, because that stuff matters. Or show them what, you know, like that you can learn. Like, say, oh, I know Final Cut, but I don't know Adobe. Transferable. I can figure it out. I'm a fast learner. Do not doubt yourself, and do not ever undersell yourself. At best, oversell yourself or something. But do not ever undersell yourself, because what are you doing? You're trying to get hired here. And also, for the tip about moving to a new city, make sure you know the budget. Like, how much is rent out there wherever you're moving, whether it be LA, New York, Atlanta. Just make sure you know what you're dealing with. Make sure you know the neighborhoods. Make sure you have at least an idea of some places you could see yourself working while you're trying to find that one job you want, whether it be part-time, full-time. You know, there was a lot of office gigs I was applying for, you know, working part-time at the New York Post or something, even though that's something that I found through networking, but something like that. You know, make sure you are doing something where you have either a steady, consistent income while you're trying to figure things out, or you have at least $5K saved up, because I did not have $5K. And let me tell you, in New York, that money will run out fast. Yeah, just make sure you're planning. Plan. If you don't learn anything else from this video about my experience moving to New York City without a job, plan everything. Plan everything. Like, I felt like I was fully planned. You know, I had the sublease, I had the places I was going to apply to, but I didn't plan how much food was going to cost every day, or electricity, or having to pay my phone bill, or just all the minor other expenses that come with living in New York, or just living on your own in general. I don't know how you feel about going into debt, but you know, credit card debt might come up if you move to any new city without a job. Just saying. It happened. Point is, as I sit here 1 year since graduating, I would not trade my experience for anything. If I could do it all over again, I absolutely would. Because I feel like everything that I went through, from the internships, from the freelancing, from working part-time, to all the interviews, to everybody I've just met so far since living here, I think that it's really shaped me. I feel like if I stayed in Oregon and just worked some type of job out there until I, you know, was able to get on my feet and move, I don't think I would have learned. I don't think I would have grown. I would have just gotten too comfortable and stayed home. And I refused to do that. I wanted to grow, I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be the best version of myself. And I think to this day, I'm still trying to be that. But in conclusion, I just want to say post-grad is a blast currently, as we're sitting here 1 year. And, you know, even with everything that's going on, I'm blessed to still be able to have a job, work from home, and contribute to the news and journalism that you guys are seeing every single day. Thank you guys for tuning into this video. You know, I really love sharing my experience, just how post-grad has been in everything, and just, you know, life living in New York and my whole experience. Like, I always say that, like, my life could essentially be a movie or something, or a book, who knows. One day we'll see. Let me know what your experience was like post-grad, or if you're about to graduate, or if you graduated years ago. You know, older people or people who are like about to graduate right now, like, I want to know, like, what's going on. So let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.